So how do you establish a good client relationship?
All right, so client relationship is a multitude of different things. So we're talking about building rapport. We're talking about building expertise in the client's minds, and we're talking about building overall trust with our brand or our company or our framework, so to speak. So it's one thing for you to be like, you're my client, and okay, Charles, you trust me, but if you don't trust the process, if you don't trust the transformation, if you don't trust the program, if you don't trust the meal plan, then you're not going to get very good results. So client relations, we're talking about, let's say, personal rapport / trust. Oops. Okay, we're talking about, let's call it trust in, you call it brand, you could call it process, system, whatever you want to call it, right? And what was the third one I just said? We got building rapport. What?
Program.
And that's kind of this right here. And then this is kind of related to this, but not exactly. I would say personal expertise, right? Because here's what we're doing. I like you, I trust you, I know you. I like what you do, I trust what you do, I know what you do. You're good at what you do. So that's those are the main three things I would say. Now it's very important to know how to build these things, right? So the simplest way to look at personal rapport and trust, it's like dating, right? And we'll, can you remember these two, Charles?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to erase them, and we're going to go one by one. All right. So when I think about dating is and I'm not giving dating lessons, but they are very, very similar, okay? You would say the same if you're trying to have a deep friendship or a deep connection with somebody, right? Now, you don't need to be their therapist, but it's probably a good thing if they're telling you a lot of personal information. That means they trust you, right? So ask, I would say, revealing questions, but not in a way that's like, tell me about your dating life. You don't need to be weird like that, but revealing questions would be it could be as simple as, what'd you do yesterday? How do you like your job? Right? I will ask a series of questions. So rather than say revealing, let's just call it a series of escalating questions, right? And I'll give you guys an example. So one, what do you do for work? What do you do? Two. Okay, so here's a good clue. Don't ever act like you know what they do if they do a complicated job, because people like to talk about what they do. People love to talk about their job and how they're passionate about it, or if they're not passionate about it. But let's just say, okay, I am a researcher of embryonic sacs in the Eastern European phalange, right? It's my thing is that sounds crazy. Tell me more. Right? I don't act like I know anything about it. I just act curious. So curiosity is key. Okay? So like I want to know what you do, and I'm genuinely curious about what you do, right? And so let them tell you all about it, right? And so this is the same thing for, you know, so we'll go right down to the next one. This will be the same as, do you have kids? What's their names? Do they play sports? Right? A lot of this is just like, the more questions you ask about someone's life, the more you are communicating that you care about their life, right? Something that I found is if you obtain a lot of information about somebody, it's hard not to care about them. And it's kind of a funny thing about just like the way we're wired as humans, but it's hard to fake genuine curiosity about somebody. If you're genuinely curious, you end up caring whether you wanted to or not. So it's like, you don't actually have to care prior to asking these questions. Once you ask these questions, you end up caring. And that's what I figured out. I was like, because when I was 20 years old or whatever, and I started training people, a lot of times I was just like, I don't really care about this person. I care about myself. I just whatever. But then I'd ask all these questions, and then I'd find myself being like, I wonder how Robert's doing. And I was just like, damn, like I actually kind of care about this person. But that's why you build rapport and trust. And that's why doing this process is going to get you there.
Yeah, so do you start this at the beginning of, like, when you first start with a client, correct?
I will even do pieces of this in the consultation, because it's an important part of the consultation as well.
So what happens if you run into a client that's maybe either closed off or not willing to dive deep into that? Like if you hey, what do you do? And they don't really want to get into it, or...
So I'm gonna this may sound a little bit harsh, but in that case, you need to do better. Because all human beings want to talk about themselves. They may not want to talk about what you're asking them about, but everyone wants to talk about something. Now, sometimes you need to find a common ground. You need to find, okay, let's just say Karen, because we know she's a Karen. Karen hates, people who talk on their cell phones while driving, right? So like, you have to find something that they care about, even if it's something that they want to rant about, right? That is the thing. It's like, you may have gone through the list of normal things, but the goal is not to talk about what you want to talk about. It's not the goal at all. The goal is to talk about what they want to talk about. Because it's like socializing 101, right? If you want to be around that person, you need to make them feel good. And most people feel good when they talk about the things they want to talk about, right? So you're not creating conversation that suits you, you're creating conversation that suits them, right? And that's going to make you ultimately a better coach, because if you can control how someone feels in your presence, then you're going to be able to motivate them and inspire them to do better.
So you would say, if you can't find a common ground within the first, couple questions, you just keep asking, or
you need to do your own research, right? Maybe ask yourself, what does this person care about or feel passionate? And remember, this could be positive or negative towards. So it's like finding a chord or finding a hot trigger. Triggers are great, by the way. If you can find the trigger, you can get them talking. You can get their energy up. Think about how many times, Simon loves to rant about certain things, right? Like, it's just, you find, and don't get me wrong, bonus points if you both can rant about it.
Right.
Because,
Common ground.
yeah, or at least you can have, what do you call it? Engaging conversation, right? I have a lot of engaging conversation with Simon that borders on verbal arguments and fights, but he likes that. Some people, it's just enough to get them a little bit passionate or interested or whatever. But for example, with Sergio, what is Sergio like? It's not a topic.
Consistency.
No, what is he like? What is he like in his sessions? And it's not a topic.
He's super excited.
No, what is he like? What does he like? Why does he like training with you and me in particular?
Oh, it's our energy, what we give him.
But what are we giving him?
Our expertise and kind of like a brotherly jabbing at each other.
Banter, right? That is all he cares about. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need to talk about his kids. He doesn't need to do anything. He needs banter. Mm-hmm. He wants you to talk shit. I knew that within 45 seconds of meeting him. I was like, he wants me to talk shit to him. Mm-hmm. And that's all he cares about.
Yeah.
That's how I sold him practically. So the sooner you figure that out, the sooner you know how to motivate them, how to engage them, how to make them feel good, mm-hmm. right? And so it's very important to figure that out. Otherwise, you have no ability to influence whether or not they get results, whether or not they re-sign, any of that stuff, mm-hmm. right? You're just hoping that, it's kind of like you're working with an individual almost as if you're not even there. It's almost as if you're just sending them an email, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's like, you're not affecting them on an emotional level.
Right.
Any other feedback or questions or anything?
No.
All right, cool. Go to the next part. That's probably good on that, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, what was the next one?
Trust in the brand, process, and system.
Okay, so this is something, building trust in the brand process system. This is something that starts off before you guys ever meet a client. This is something in our marketing that we start. This is something in the consultation, programs, everything. So how do we do this? And I'm going to tell you how I do it on the marketing side, as well as we'll go into how it gets done on your guys' side. So words are important, right? So what is our brand process system, right? What are the words that matter? I'm going to go through some of the words that I use and that we will continuously use, right? Training space, obviously. 12-week transformation. Saying things like system, process, program. These are all things that refer outside of yourself. It allows you to not just have them look to you for everything, but for them to also lean on something bigger than yourself, right? So there's a reason why I have the 12-week roadmap that we show them, which I think is a very good idea for everyone to become familiar with, right? We have this roadmap thing that we show people when they sign up, right? It goes like this, and it's like 1 to 3 weeks, 4 to 6, 7 to 9, 9 to 12, or something like that, right? And it's got, it's got details of what to expect along the way. And if every trainer is familiar with this and you tell them what to expect, they're going to be much more motivated and much more less anxious as they go throughout their 12 weeks, because they're like, oh, I get to expect that I'm going to get to work on hypertrophy at this stage, or I get to test my 1 rep maxes when I get to the end, or whatever it is. It's like, oh, the first 3 weeks is just really about me getting compliant. So that's all that's expected of me, right? That's how you build trust in the brand, process, and systems, is letting them know what is to come and that it's not all on your shoulders, right? That this is a tried and true system. Another way to do this is by talking about success stories, right? So whenever they're, and these don't have to be your clients, remember. Oh, how long have we been in business? We've been servicing clients for almost 8 years, right? We've serviced, around 500 transformations over the years, or something like that. I have to go back and check, but that's approximately. But that's the kind of stuff you can do to make it so they feel more confident and they're more inspired to put in the work, right? If they feel like they're a guinea pig that's being tested, they're not going to be as confident. You want them to feel like, oh, this is automatic. Like, of course you're going to get the results. This many people have already done this and gotten results, and that's why we're in business. That's why we're doing what we're doing, right? Anything on any of that?
Would there be a way to build on, like, say they may come into the training sessions with maybe not as much, I wouldn't say not as much trust, but still have a lot of questions about the brand, process, and system. How would you combat that? Would it just be the knowledge of it, or would that be, like you were saying, leaning on past success stories and stuff like that?
Answer their questions with system-based answers. So give me an example of a question.
I don't know, like, what would your percentage rate of successful 12-week transformation would you have?
Sure. So define successful first, please.
So if someone wanted to come in and lose 20 pounds, like how like 100% success on what they came in wanting to get out of it.
Did lose 20 pounds, or what percentage of them get what they wanted to get out of it?
The latter.
Okay. So a lot of people make goals that they are in the beginning that they're not even necessarily convicted towards. So less percentage of the people come out of it getting what they originally wanted out of it, but that's because they weren't actually convicted in their goals. So I would say that's closer to probably around 20 to 30%. Now, and keep in mind, this is leaning back on, we've been doing this for a long time, we have a lot of experience, yada, yada, yada. So now, in terms of how many people have gotten what they are happy with the results they got, that's closer to the 90%, right? Because what happens is throughout the transformation, we do check-ins, we do accountability stuff, we reconfigure their program based on if their goals change, right? So we're constantly checking in with them. Hey, here's what you've done so far. You made this amount of results. Are you happy with this? If not, here's what we have to change. Okay, we check in a couple weeks later. Okay, you made new progress. Are you happy with the rate of progress? Like, we're constantly recalibrating their expectations based on the work they're putting in, based on how compliant they are to their plans. If they're not compliant to the plan, I sit down with them and I say, based on the goals we set, we're not going to get there if we don't get compliant to a plan. So do we need to change the plan, or do you need to, figure your shit out, essentially? Like, you need to get your shit together. And they will say, no, I really need to get my shit together. This is not okay. This is on me, right? Then they will always at the end say, I'm happy with what I've done, even though it wasn't what I set out to do. I'm okay with that answer, because they still are happy with the progress we help them make, and they take ownership of whatever failures that they have. Whatever progress they didn't make is on them. But they have to say it's on them. You don't get to say it. That's how you know you've done a successful job as a coach. If they blame you, you didn't do your job. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you would say goals change fairly frequently, like with the transformations?
I don't like to tell clients that, but what I will say is that some people realize or something comes up during the transformation that they weren't expecting, and they may change their goals. But I don't like to tell that to clients off the bat because I want them to do everything they can to stick to their original goal. I hold them pretty tight to their original goal to an extent that a lot of people towards the end feel worn out because I don't let them off the hook. But I know that not everyone is going to have that same grip on their clients, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be to that degree for everyone, but I absolutely do not want anyone blaming you as a coach. They blame you as a coach, that's your fault. It's not your fault they didn't get the results, it's your fault they're blaming you. So, that all
Yeah.
makes sense? All right. What's the next one?
Personal expertise.
Right. All right. Anything you have to say about personal expertise off the bat? Any questions or anything?
Would that just be like your experience, like training people, or would that be like education, or what would that like?
So it's everything. It's every part of that. Now, what I will say though is, what leads it is going to be, I would say, passion-based learning. What's taken me further as a coach with clients more than anything else is what I'm really passionate about, and then going and then finding out more information about those things. Now, if it's completely irrelevant to them, then this doesn't count. But if it's relevant to fitness and their health and coaching them, it's a win. So an example of that could be, I've been researching and practicing, let's say, could be bodybuilding, could be martial arts, it could be, whatever, etc. In fitness and coaching and any discipline, because these are just disciplines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any disciplines, they're going to have, physical aspects, mental, nutrition, what else? Recovery, right? Any of these disciplines, they're going to have aspects that overlap, right? Aspects that make you an expert, essentially, as a coach. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to make everyone into a martial artist, or you're going to make everyone into a bodybuilder or whatever. But what it does is it makes you an expert, right? It gives you deference, and it shows that you are striving to be at the forefront of something, right? You don't want to be seen as someone who, I don't know, it's all right, I guess it's fine, do this exercise. Why? Well, it's, it's good for, you don't want to be, you want to be looked at as someone who is passionate, someone who's driving, someone who's motivated to keep doing something, right? And it doesn't have to be crazy. Like I said, just something is hey, this is what I'm researching and practicing, or, I'm really interested and I'm doing this sort of, nutrition strategy or whatever. Like, just keep doing and learning. Doing and learning, doing and learning. I would say is the biggest takeaway that I would want people to get from this. Doing and learning, and then teaching, right? The more you can teach your clients about things that are somewhat relevant to their progress, somewhat relevant to their journey, because what you're really doing, Charles, what do you think this equals for the client?
Doing, learning, and teaching.
Yeah, like what do you think ultimately the whole point of that is and what it gives them?
Confidence.
Even if it's not relevant to their training.
Gives them confidence in you.
Yes, and inspiration. So you want to inspire them. And what inspires people is enthusiasm. It's passion. It's when you practice something and you're learning, it gives you confidence. It gives you your own energy in fitness, right? It gives you something to give, basically. You're amassing something to give to the next person. And so that a lot of times is what people are looking for, okay? Now, aside from this is I would say probably the most important thing when it comes to being a successful coach. There's a lot of other stuff, and we'll go into that as well. So in addition to that, don't get caught in conversations you don't know anything about. And I see this happening all the time. I see this happening when trainers talk to other trainers. I see this happening when trainers talk to clients. This is something you don't want to do. So ask me a question about something you know I know nothing about.
What do you think about the latest Miles Davis album?
I thought he was dead.
He is, but...
But see, now, okay. So that's not relevant to training, right? So I would actually get into that conversation because it creates humility. You're going to see me as more humble if I'm willing to not know anything about that subject. Mm-hmm. And it's not a loss for me because it has nothing to do with my expertise. Mm-hmm. Now, ask me something in fitness that I know nothing about.
I don't know, you know a lot. How would you get someone who was that used to Olympic lifts back into doing like the snatch?
So this somebody who used to Olympic lift?
I've been out of it for like maybe 8 years.
Have they been training?
No.
They haven't been training at all?
Not for Olympic lifts.
Have they been doing any training?
Just like general like, gym workouts.
Is this something you want to do?
Me? Yeah.
This is something you want to do and you're my client?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to need to start from the foundation, right? We're going to start with the very core foundation of these Olympic lifts. I'd like to take a little bit of time to transition into this. So if you don't mind, we'll do this over a period of about 2 weeks because I want to take where we're at now and I want to make a gradual transition to this new program. Is that all right with you?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. See, I didn't talk about shit, but I sound like I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Right.
Now I have 2 weeks to figure out what the fuck I need to do.
Okay, that's right.
Because here's the thing, like, you can learn just about anything. Now, I'm not talking about like rocket science,
right?
But like, I've Olympic lifted before. I trained as a college athlete. I trained with college athletes. I trained college athletes. So like, and yes, I know enough about the Olympic lifts where I could probably do it right now. But I wanted to show you what it would look like if I didn't know anything about it. I could have gotten into it. I didn't need to. Mm-hmm. But I also wanted to show you, if you don't know anything about it, you don't have to say that. Mm-hmm. You just have to give yourself enough time, give yourself enough space to obtain the information. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, I need everyone to have a higher standard for themselves and what they can become. I know I can train that person if I have enough time and resources. Mm-hmm. Like I know, give me a couple weeks, I'll create a program that's just as good as the next person. And you know what? I can also watch videos, I can practice the movements myself. There's a lot of things I can do. Am I gonna be the #1 Olympic coach in the world? No, that's not the point. That's not my goal, right? My goal is to be able to offer them a good program and be able to train them successfully.
Right.
And have them make progress.
Right.
Right? And of course be safe and all that stuff, right? So, any other questions or examples that you think might be helpful?
No, I think more so it's just like learning how to pivot without exposing, I wouldn't say call it a weakness, but like exposing like a vulnerability or something that would have them lose confidence in you.
Yes. And yeah, so that's a good example of that. Now there's going to be a lot more subtle things that are just conversational that I think we should go over, which we've talked about it as like, what we call it, like intellectual sparring.
Right.
Right? And so that's something I think we should practice. So why don't you stand up and pretend to be, a client who's just being a pain in the ass, asking stupid questions.
Okay. So why do I have to do this workout?
Sorry, give me a little context first. I don't know. Where are we? Who are we?
I'm really bad at this sparring stuff.
No, that's fine.
I guess so. Okay, so we're.
And that's a good question. I just need a little bit of context.
Right. So, I guess we're like 2-3 weeks in, and I'm still doing goblet squats. And
perfect. And you're a newbie?
Yeah, let's say like I'm novice to like beginner intermediate.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So start again.
So why am I still doing goblet squats? I want to go under bar.
Okay. Have you done barbell squats before?
A while ago, yeah.
Okay. Do you think your form is competent and your biomechanics can support the bar?
Yeah, well, I used to squat like 315 pounds.
Okay. Do you still think you could do that with good form?
I don't know, I haven't been under bar.
Okay. Well, let's put you under a bar.
Okay.
So there's push and pull, right? I just pulled her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to put her under a barbell with a bunch of weight.
Right.
But I'm going to put her under a bar and show her how she sucks. So that's a pull, right? Could I have pushed and brought her back down? Yeah, but sometimes these days, I don't have the energy for that.
Right.
When you're training a bunch of clients, you don't want to argue with them all day sometimes. Sometimes you just pull them and let them fall on their face. And that's exactly what that would be. I'd put them under a bar and I'd be like, okay, I need you to get down to 90 degrees. And they're like, ugh. And then you take a video of it and show it to them and then show them how silly they look.
Right.
You're like, okay, now you know why we're doing a goblet squat and we're going and we're touching the ass to the bench or whatever.
Okay.
So, does that make sense?
Yeah.
You want to do another one? Think of a specific
sure.
client.
Yeah, so we could, okay, so I've been following the meal plan 100%, but, nothing's changed.
How long's it been?
It's been like 4 weeks.
Well, so here's the thing. This wouldn't happen to me. If it got that far, I'd have
This is something I came across when I first started training you, like back in 2021.
So just for background, if it's been that long and they haven't made progress and they're doing the same plan, you as a trainer made a mistake. So you got first look at yourself, right, in that situation. Now, if she had said which something would have happened to me, said 2 weeks or something, and I'd be like, well, when'd you check it? They would say 3 weeks. I'd be like, why did you take your weight? I told you not to take your weight. I would discipline them on the thing that I told them to do. I'm not even going to acknowledge their stupid question.
Right.
Because my confidence is in my process, not their process. I have zero confidence in their process.
Yeah.
That's why I don't acknowledge it. I acknowledge my process and the progress that I promised them based on the systems.
Right.
Always go back to the systems, because when they start threatening you, when they start coming at you sour, did you follow the system?
Right.
And they start coming at you and be like, I didn't make progress. Your check-in was at 3 weeks. They say, whatever. There's always going to be, why aren't I doing strength work? Well, do you have enough endurance to even, be able to do the work you need to do? No. So it's like always fall back on the systems, because we as individuals are not that, we're not that powerful, right? But the systems are the things that make us, they're like our arms and our tools, right? We wield these systems to create results. We don't create the results, the systems do.
And that would be the same sort of response, because I was going more towards like, how come my meal plan hasn't changed? And they'd still fall back on the, well, what was your check-in? What was your check-in like? Did you lose or whatever?
Well, if they said, why hasn't my meal plan changed, and they're 4 weeks in, have they made progress?
Right. It would still fall.
And if they said like, if they, so start that conversation.
Yeah. So it's been 4 weeks, and I'm tired of eating 99% lean ground turkey.
And I would say, first of all, are you happy with the progress you're making?
I feel like it could be better.
Well, how much weight have you lost each week?
About 0.9 pounds.
Okay, and is that reasonable for the weight that you were at and where you're trying to get to?
I feel like at the start I would have lost more. I should have lost more.
Why?
I feel like I had more to lose.
Well, scientifically, why would that make it so you lose more?
I just always heard that, if you had more weight, you would lose it faster at the beginning.
If you have more water weight, sure. So, if you have a higher salt diet and you're eating like crap, then yeah, you're gonna lose more weight in the first, week. But if you didn't, that's probably a signal that you were actually eating better. So it's just this, it's just this back and forth. But at the end of the day, when it comes to changing the meal plan and the options, I would say something like, first, I always make them acknowledge that they're happy with the results.
Right.
If they're not happy with the results, then either I need to reframe their perspective as to why they're not happy, right? And that because they're either wrong or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But generally, I would have already acknowledged that I was wrong prior to getting to that point. Right. So that's always the goal. It's like, if you're wrong, figure it out before your client tests. That's the goal. Okay. If they're wrong, which most of the time they are, because they're not the professional, right? Then you need to reframe and you need to teach them. So if they get to that point, I always get them to acknowledge it. I'm happy with my progress. I'm celebrating my wins. Okay? You've done that. Now, if you're really tired of ground turkey, it's been 4 weeks. Now, if I think that it's a discipline problem, I'll tell them to keep eating it. If I think that, hey, they really are just tired of ground turkey and they want something else, I'll give them options. Simple as that. They don't have to keep eating ground turkey. It's not the end all be all. Let them eat chicken. We can have them eat tilapia. There's other things.
Okay.
So, all right, anything else on that?
The mental sparring is
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. And I think we should do exercises for that with the
routine.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything else on this topic that we should go over while we're making the video?
Personal expertise. How much does certificates versus actual experience come into play?
Oh my God. So I think it's more about experience, but